Hey guys, Coach Hannah here. Today we are going to dive right in and talk about how you always have to lose more weight than you think. So what really inspired me to want to do this live was a conversation I've had many times before, but there was a recent conversation that was different than the others. So many of my clients, a lot of women come in, maybe having had a successful weight loss journey in the past, or like, I was able to lose, 20 pounds, but then 10 came back, and then I'll lose it, and then that 10 comes back. And so I lost this much weight and I put all of it back on. So what prompted this was I field a lot of clients, and I get a lot of people who are seeking help learning how to actually keep the weight off. And I was actually on an onboarding call with a client once, and I had mentioned that I was in a cut, and she was like, but wait, you already lost the weight. And I'm like, well, it's not like a fixed point in time. Your weight can still fluctuate. And that blew her mind that losing weight was not crossing a finish line. So I was starting to hear this more and more about women who felt that either like losing weight was crossing a finish line, or the fact that they had put any weight back on after a successful weight loss journey instantly made them feel like a failure. And I was hearing that more and more, and I was like, what is it was an odd trend that I had started to see. So then I had a really recent conversation with a new client that just hit me so hard, because she got so emotional and was so open and honest with me, which is what I want from my clients. Like, we get to know each other. I'm going to know you better than your mom by the end of the time we're done working together. But she felt like a failure. She had had a really successful weight loss journey and ended up putting most of it back on. And that wasn't the reason that she seemed to be so upset. She got emotional because she felt like she had failed. She felt that she had been a letdown, a failure, and that she was alone in this. She was the only one who had really ever lost weight successfully and then piled it back on. And it struck me, I'm like, she doesn't know that that's not a weird thing. No, you don't want to lose weight to put it right back on, but if you're losing weight as a means to an end, like once I lose the weight, I can start living, or once I lose the weight, I can be done with this healthy food, or once I lose the weight, fill in the blank, you are setting yourself up for a finish line. And so as I was having this conversation with her and just saw this like awareness kind of shed over her face, I was like, I need to do this as a live. I need to share this. So the math surprised me. So I have my little trusty Post-it here. I keep logs of all of like my weight loss endeavors, things like that. You're talking to a type A. I'm the type of person that if I make a to-do list, then I do something that is not on the to-do list. Oh, whatever I did that's not on the list is going on the list, so I can cross it off. Type A to a T. So I have spreadsheets, data, everything from all the weight loss cuts I've done. So my first one was the big one. That's the main, my first successful one was the big one. Most of you guys have seen a before and after of me by now. So that was the big one. I lost a ton of weight, and I did it with that mindset. This is a means to an end. Hell or high water, I am losing this mother bleep weight, insert whatever language you want. I was losing the weight, period, no matter what I had to sacrifice to get there, and I did. I lost the weight and I stayed there for a while, but for me it was, you are losing weight or you are the person you were trying to not be anymore. I never figured out that there is a happy medium. I wasn't looking at my weight loss as a lifestyle change. I was looking at it through a lens of, I need to do this to have the life I want. So I kept the weight off, most of it off, for quite a long time, but I had sacrificed a social life. I'd never learned to balance. I was either perfect or I was bucket mode, lived that life for a while. And that ended up me being unhappy with my general life because I was so afraid of losing my body. I didn't know how to keep the body I wanted, but then also live the life that I wanted. I had never put in the work during the weight loss journey to figure out any sense of balance at all. So I put on, let's say after my first weight loss journey, where I'm just going to start rounding some numbers, I lost like between 55 and 60 pounds, somewhere right in there. So I successfully ended up putting on a solid 20 pounds back. very quickly. After, like, so I'd kept it off for a while, and then it was one of those where, like, you bend, and I just broke. I just went into fuck it mode and never turned it off. I put on a pretty substantial amount of weight very quickly. So then I panicked. It's like, oh my God, I'm a failure. I'm the only one who has ever lost a lot of weight and then put it back on. There is something wrong with me. So then I tried a couple extreme diets, even though I knew they didn't work. It was this whole thing. So eventually had to lose. I, again, hired a coach. Hiring a coach when you are in panic mode is essential to get you out of panic mode, because it is near impossible to view yourself through a lens of objectivity, logic, and realism, because you are so busy viewing yourself through a lens of emotion, highly invested, a little unstable, and highly critical. None of those lead to solid decision-making processes. So after losing between 55 to 60-ish pounds, I put 20 back on. Then I lost all 20, or actually, yeah, I lost all 20. So I learned a little bit more balance that time around, but I also was so freaked out that I put the weight back on that the balance I was learning was kind of with a side of, don't fuck this up, Hannah. Don't fuck this up. So I lived like that for a while. And then, again, the lack of balance got the best of me, so I started putting some weight back on. Not as quick this time. I wasn't as bad the other time around, but put some weight back on. I put maybe 12 to, what's the number? Just shy, like 12 to 14-ish pounds. I don't know. I can't read my handwriting. I put that back on. Then I was there for a while. I wasn't uncomfortable, but I was like, okay, I'd like to rein this in a little bit before it gets out of hand again. So then I lost the weight I put back on, about 14 pounds. So basically if you lose weight and you put forth zero effort to learning habits in order to make your lifestyle healthy, it will come back on. If you lose weight and never ever take a day off during your weight loss journey, and remember that you don't have to track every morsel of food. If you miss one workout, your jeans will still probably fit tomorrow. If you never learn the balance aspect, you are going to put some weight back on. And then when you learn the balance aspect, life is going to happen. Sometimes you're going to put some weight back on. So putting weight back on is not a failure. It's not catching it before it becomes an issue is what kind of puts you back right where you ended up. So as someone who can say I have successfully lost weight and kept it off, it does not mean I have never put a pound of it back on. I have definitely put a pound of it and then some back on. But every time I relapse, fail, make a mistake, whatever language you want to call it, instead of seeing it as a failure, I did something wrong, that I am unworthy, that I'm deeply flawed, I instead look at it through a lens of curiosity and learning. So why did that happen? What didn't go so well this time? And what actually worked really well this time? Use the times that don't go super well as a time to just really figure out why. Be curious, ask questions, be a constant learner about yourself. So as I kind of did these numbers and I was working my way down my Post-it, I realized every time I lost weight and then let it creep back up again, every subsequent time I let the weight creep back up again, it was never as bad as the time before. Because the time before, I always learned something from it. I would learn what went well and that I would probably want to repeat. And I would learn things that didn't go so well that I probably need to find better methods for, applying in the future. And that takes, self-development, working with coaches, and just figuring out good and bad and realizing that there's no one perfect way. Just because one way worked one time, if it ultimately failed you, maybe pieces of it did work, but as a whole, you need to find other parts of it to help you in your weight loss journey. So basically, it's one of those where you are going to mess up at some point. Even if you are the most successful weight loss person on the planet, whatever, you're gonna put a pound or two back on eventually. It's just gonna happen. It's okay. We all do it, but it's reining yourself in. I have a free book on weight loss. It's I kind of compiled a ton of research, and it's the 5 common traits of successful dieters. Those aren't people who have never put a pound back on, but it's people who have made a lifestyle that encompass who they want to be, physique-wise, health-wise, social life-wise. So if you don't have a copy of that, shoot me a DM like now or after the live, and I will send you the link for the free ebook. And a part of it, I call it the retractable dog leash effect. So during the holidays, it is not uncommon to maybe enjoy a couple more beverages than usual. It is not uncommon to have a couple more desserts than usual. I mean, I call mine the Great Holiday Cookie Massacre of 2015. Been there. So it is normal to see maybe the scale or your clothes fit a little bit differently during certain times. Maybe you have a bunch of birthdays in your family that hit it all at one time. And it's having that retractable dog leash that you do let yourself have some wiggle room. You let your hair down from time to time. But if you feel yourself straying a little bit too far from where you do feel most healthy, most comfortable in your own skin, click the button, rein yourself back in. Losing weight and keeping it off is not about never slipping, never making a mistake, not like never ever having an off day. It's about finding a balance of, okay, I can have off days, but if I have too many off days, I get way too far away from where I'm comfortable and I do feel not as good and I have to work really hard to get back in. So every time I don't care whatever word you want to use, failed, put weight back on or whatever, I don't fall as hard. I don't wander that far away because I learn each and every single time. The biggest thing is you're not a failure if you put any weight back on. You're not a failure if you put all of it back on. Ask why. What are the common trends I'm seeing each time this happens? And realize that just because you lose it once or you lose it again or you've lost it 5 times, I don't care. Stop crossing a finish line. You're never done. Yes, there are times in a fat loss phase where you have to be a lot more dedicated to the fat loss phase. You have to say no more to the drinks and the desserts and going off plan, and you have to do more cardio. You have to work harder. That is part of being on a diet. Sometimes you're just going to be freaking hungry. It's just going to happen. It's biology. But when you're done, when you lose the weight, when you've done it, when you're the successful dieter, it doesn't mean all that shit just gets thrown out the window. You're not just doing this until you get there, then you get to be done with all of it. It's realizing along the way, it's realizing during the weight loss process, things that you can totally stick with. Like, you know what? I've been drinking a ton of water. I'm feeling better. I can keep drinking this much water. You know what? Workouts are now part of my routine. I can consistently make it to the gym X number of days a week. You know what? I really don't need double chocolate chip fudge ice cream with icing on it, I don't know, like 5 nights a week. You know what? I can actually have it like once or twice a week, feel good, and still feel comfortable in my own skin. It's about finding a balance, and it is so much harder to find a balance of sometimes you're good, sometimes you're not as good, than being perfect or fuck it mode. For any type A on here, balance is harder than always saying yes or always saying no. But that mindset and lifestyle will ultimately fail you over and over and over again until you embrace the uncomfortable, embrace the balance, and realize that sometimes you're a little bit closer to the physique you love. Sometimes the weight's going to flux back up, but it's using tools that you've learned along the way to kind of rein yourself in before you get, I agree, girl, it is hard. Finding balance is the hardest part of any weight loss journey for a type A like me. But it's worth that hard work because those bucket modes don't really happen anymore because I've embraced the balance. I had this conversation with a client recently who her and I share very similar, like kind of just like mindset and background. And she was just like, you know, throughout this process, my stress response used to be, what can I eat and where's the wine? That was like number 1, number 2. And we've realized that was no longer serving her because that took her even further away from a place where she felt healthy, comfortable, and in control. So it was like self-deprecating. So for a very long time now, she's been using other ways of managing stress. And so now she embraced the balance. She embraced this way of, she's like, you know what? Eating everything in sight and reaching for the wine isn't number 1 and 2 on my like stress reduction list. They're still there, but they're maybe number like 4 and 5 or 6 and 7, depending on the day. So It's realizing that you are going to slip, you are going to make mistakes, you are going to eventually put some weight back on if you lost weight, and you are normal. You are in good company, you are human, you are not alone, and you did nothing wrong. View everything you did with curiosity and wanting to learn, to look for trends, so you develop a lifestyle in which you feel comfortable the vast majority of the time. So I've done this for a very long time. So by the time now that, if I, put on maybe, let's say 6, 8, whatever pounds, I know how to ring it in and get that off pretty easily. It doesn't have to be this huge deal every time, just because I've learned habits, and it's taking a long time, and it's taken some really hard fall flat on my face to learn some really hard lessons, and then you apply them moving forward. You're not alone. You didn't mess up. It's just finding a range that you are probably comfortable in. So my clothes fit. If I gained a couple pounds right now, they would still fit. If I lost a couple pounds right now, they would still fit. It's finding, clothes that you enjoy, clothes that you feel comfortable in, a body that you enjoy, and then give yourself some wiggle room. The scale is going to move up and down. It is part of life. So you might have, a 10-pound range in which you're comfortable. And if you start hitting that upper limit, it's time to rein yourself back in a little bit. You have to have processes in place for keeping yourself in check a little bit if you have a tendency to go off the deep end and you're trying to avoid it. So the whole purpose behind this is to remind you that you're not alone if you feel like you messed up. We've all done it, and we'll probably do it again. Look at it through curiosity instead of criticism. Try and do better moving forward. You're not alone, and don't look at it as a finish line you have to cross. Look at it as a journey. Sometimes you have to push harder. Sometimes you get to pump the brakes, but you're going to be moving forward regardless. So the whole point of this was really to reach out to any of you who feel like you failed at anything if you put the weight back on and you're the only one, because you are not. And you did nothing wrong. You might just need to try some different methods or tools using forward, which is why when I onboard clients, I ask you so many questions. I want to know what you've tried, what things you think worked, what didn't work, why, what are you looking for, what does your lifestyle look like? We need to know all of those things, because there's no one perfect method. Otherwise, someone would have come up with it by now. Or if it was as simple as eat protein and do lots of cardio, there wouldn't be one girl on the planet who has a problem with her weight. It has to be individual, it has to be sustainable, or you will put the weight back on. It doesn't mean you failed, it means your methods weren't ideal for you. That's all. But you're okay. That's all I really wanted to cover today, is just let you know you're not alone. And just because someone lost the weight and kept it off doesn't mean they've never had to lose it again. So between my huge weight loss, then put some back on, then lose it, put a little bit less back on, and then lose it, and now I fluctuate in a comfortable range where I have an upper limit where I get a little bit less comfortable and then bring it back down. As of this morning, I am 55 pounds lighter than my heaviest recorded weight. I know I was heavier than that at some point, but let's just, you avoid the doctor when you're feeling like that. So 55 pounds lighter right now than my absolute heaviest recorded weight in like a doctor's office on a physical. I have lost 106 pounds because I had a big drop, then I put it back on, then I had to drop it again, then I put some back on, then I dropped it again. So it's an ongoing cycle. So as I stay even around this weight, my weight's probably going to go up a couple pounds. It'll go down a couple pounds. So my number of, I've lost 106 pounds to date. That number will only go up from here. Not because I'm doing anything wrong, but because I live my life and I'm okay with that. I have periods where I am okay letting my hair down and maybe letting my jeans get a little bit tighter. And then when I feel like I'm getting way too far away from where I'm comfortable, then I rein it in a little bit and then get back down. So that number 106, maybe by the end of the year, maybe that 106 pounds lost might be 110. I don't know. I don't care. And you know what? This is how much that number actually means. Nothing. Has no barrier or no value of you. It's just a wave method. So what's this question? When you realize you need to go back down, do you reduce your calories so you're in a deficit? Then when you're hot, your goal to maintain. So probably then when you're not, your goal to maintain. So when I realize I need to rein it in a little bit, instead of just slashing calories, because that in a sense is yo-yo dieting and your body has massive defense systems to make sure that that doesn't work every time. I have a bunch of other lives on that. But basically is I just rein in my habits. If I've been letting myself, enjoy a couple more beverages than usual, if I've been having dessert a lot more frequently, if I find myself getting a little bit lackadaisical with my workouts, I rein in the variables that I know are no longer serving me. I hit the gym harder. I restrain myself a little bit more around alcohol, a little bit more around dessert. Maybe I don't go back for seconds as much. I fix those variables first. My first thought is not slash calories, because that is going to throw your body into defense mode. And if you're a yo-yo dieter and have a chronic dieting history, the more times you slash calories and then put weight back on, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder to lose weight in the future. I have a couple Facebook lives on that, so shoot me a DM if you guys need those and I'll send you the links and whatnot. But basically, this is just telling you you're all right. You're not alone. You're not a failure. And if any coach you're working with says you messed up, you fucked up, you're a failure, they're not coaching you, they're belittling you. The coach asks questions. That's actually what I posted in my stories yesterday. I had a client who said, how do I fix this bloating problem? I'm like, I don't know. Keep a log. Let's figure out why it's happening to begin with, instead of searching for a supplement to fix something that might not need a supplement. She doesn't need a supplement. She just needed to eat a little bit differently. So it's always about asking questions. Be kind, be curious, and just keep going. Don't be in a hurry to cross the finish line, and don't value who you are on your weight. It's okay to have goals and still think you're totally a badass. It's okay to totally feel yourself and have goals. So you're sweet, but if you have any other questions, I'm about to sign off, so this would be the time to start typing and drop them in, because I'm a little parched. I'm just going to take a little sippy sip. I stopped drinking bubbly water when I was doing lives because I kept having a burping problem. If you go back quite a few, it was an issue, but I'm totally going back into it. I'm just taking the risk, but it doesn't look like any other questions are coming in. Thank you guys so much for watching. I just want you to know that you're never alone. And in those moments when you think you're totally the only one, you are so not the only one. We're here for you. I'm here for you. Whatever you need, I believe in you. Don't cross the finish line. Enjoy the journey. Bye guys. Thanks for watching.